Hi, welcome to Dragonheart. I'm Mark Griffiths. I am joined, of course, by Chay Long. Hi, Chay.
Hi, Mark. Lots to break down, lots to talk about on the Wales front, isn't there, Mark?
Oh, I'll say, yeah, and your backgrounds of Gareth Bale celebrating in Baku. That's a beauty, that is.
Oh, iconic, iconic.
Yeah. My Welsh patriotic line is, like I said last week, I got 3 of these Cult Zeros t-shirts. So I've got my Di Davis one in proper Wales Goldie colours, yellow and black, as like he used to wear. And, oh wow, Amanford underneath the Amanford wall. Oh, bless him, Di. What a legend.
Love it.
Well, there's Wrexham stuff, but not much. Well, I say not much. There's not much to discuss. I mean, we still haven't got a manager, of course, so that process looks like it's coming towards an end. The women's team won its first friendly away game, won 3-1, which is good. And also, and I love this, Gareth Owen, the new under-19 team will have club legend Gareth Owen as its coach. That's I love that. I love bringing him back into the club in that way.
That's brilliant, isn't it? That's great news for the women's team.
Sorry, just took a cup of coffee at the wrong time there. I mean, especially because Gareth is, one of those, I mean, he's local, but he's also one of those guys who has clearly remained a Wrexham fan actively since he stopped playing. I mean, in that respect as well, it's just brilliant to have him back on board in that, in an official capacity.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course. And he'll take the job very seriously, won't he, as well, which is amazing.
Well, absolutely. Well, he'll have Gemma Owen to answer to if he doesn't take it seriously, so he better make sure he did. Jordan Davis won goal of the season for the hat-trick goal against Halifax, that brilliant half volley. I've got to be honest, that got my vote. It was a fabulous goal.
No surprises there. An absolute wonderful goal. We had some he's done some absolute amazing goals all seasons, but for me that was tip of the iceberg. That was the best, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Poor old Luke Young didn't get his hat trick of goals of the season. Must be cursing the day Jordan Davis came to this club, mustn't he? What excites you? Sorry.
Well, he'll have his chance next year, won't he? Thankfully.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's staying with a new contract. Davis was already under contract. I've just got to say, because we'll talk about the contracts too. But I love the fact that Davis has now found not just his role, but also his shooting range, if you like, because he doesn't score tap-ins. And it's great value, like that picture of Gareth Bale behind you, him and his pomp. It's hard to defend against a team when you know that they've got a guy who might just get the ball on his left foot 25 yards out and smash it in. So it's great to have a player who's capable of doing that. It puts issues in the defence's mind. If they sit too deep, it might be hard to break them down, but we've now got the option of Jordan Davis or Luke Young just smashing one end. So that really adds an element to the way we defend. Our attack, rather.
Which is absolutely brilliant. Maybe one day we'll see him in a Wales shirt standing next to Gareth Bale. Who knows?
Yeah. I've been wondering the very same thing myself, to be honest. And then contracts. So apart from Sean Pearson, now everyone who's been offered a contract has signed up. So like you said, Luke Young has, Cameron Green has, Carice Hall Johnson, Jamie Record, Devontae Redmond, and wonderfully, Kwame Thomas has had a proper contract offer made, which is brilliant news.
Yeah, all brilliant news. And I was especially happy with Cameron Green because I think he has a hell of a lot of potential. And I'm glad a Southern Conference team didn't snap him up because he is from around there and he might have gone back down. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. Really happy with all them. And it also gives a chance for Devontae Redmond to show what he's got because he didn't really have much playing time last year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that. And we've now got both fullbacks on both sides and backup tied up, really, with Hall Johnson, French, Record, Green. We've got 2 keepers as well. The squad's starting to take a bit of shape. I'm just glad they gave Thomas that contract. I mean, he deserves it. The amount of work he puts in, he puts his body on the line, and we know because we've been lucky enough to be at the ground. You see all the work he's doing off the ball, off camera, just running. He keeps going until the last minute. Unusually for a striker, because obviously it's easy to sub strikers, isn't it? Let's be honest. He started 28 games last season and played 90 minutes in 24 of them. So, we weren't using him and bringing him off, but a number of times you'd see him chasing stuff into the corner flag in the 90th minute just to help us to protect the lead by meaning they couldn't, the opposition couldn't get the ball forwards again quickly. He's put an awful lot in of hard work, and he's a nice chap too. And I'm just delighted. And he performed in front of goal. I'm just so glad that we're doing the right thing and saying we will, we look after you while you recover.
100%. And for me, he deserves it 100% because if he was fully fit, I seriously believe we would have been breaking down playoff games this week. He has it all for a big target man at this level who's cracking with the ball at his feet. So, hopefully he can come back as strong as ever, ready for midway through the next season.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, you're dead right. Bringing in Armatayo, he did well. And I thought we adapted well. And at the end of the season, Ponticelli was looking sharp as well. But, if we'd had Thomas available in that form, because he was just on fire, wasn't he, when he got injured? Surely we'd got at least one extra point, which would have put us over the edge and into the playoffs. So, yeah, absolutely. Well, we've wrapped Wrexham up pretty quickly there. 7 minutes of goodness. And I reckon we're sorted. So after this, we'll move on to the small matter of Wales. Yeah, well, not much Wrexham news. Plenty of Wales news, though, Chay. 2 matches for us to look back over. And what a fabulous position Wales are in now. 4 points out of 2 games. Virtually certain that we're through to the next rounds. That's a hell of an achievement, isn't it?
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And the way they played, especially the Turkey game, was absolutely astounding. It was absolutely excellent. The Swiss game, I was a bit worried after the Switzerland game going into the Turkey games. I thought initially before the tournament that Turkey were going to be the more dangerous side, but it's not quite worked out from this campaign, is it?
Absolutely not. The Switzerland game was your classic example of to be successful, you can't be great in every match. People react so dramatically to individual games and overreact to them. But it's like Dean Keats was saying all last season, don't get overexcited when you win, don't get over concerned when you lose. It's a process. We didn't perform that well against Switzerland, but we got a point out of it. And now when you look at the table, the difference between 3 and 4 points going into a game against Italy in Rome is just massive, isn't it? That point is absolutely enormous.
Oh, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And I think with Kiefer Moore's first header in the first half, we could have got the whole 3, but they had far more chances. I was really impressed. Is it Mbolo? Forward. He was really terrorising us. Rodriguez was terrorising us. And what impressed me about Wales is we stayed calm and composed defensively, and we were a really tight unit. Our back 4 has been excellent so far this tournament, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely terrific. And the only time they looked troubled was the second half of that Swiss game. I thought the first half, as it went on, they got on top of us more. But I didn't think we really looked in a terrible amount of trouble in the first half, really. I didn't think they were threatening us all that much. They were outmanoeuvring us because they played with that 3 up front, which has been quite popular in this tournament. But I mean, 3 up front, like with a false 9, Shaqiri in this case, and 2 wider strikers. And your back 4 there have got a problem. They've got to keep quite tight to watch those 3 players. And then as a result, that's down the flanks, there's more space to exploit, especially because James and Bale were not trying to offer themselves as outlets, so they weren't totally covering the runs. And the number of times I had a spare man, especially down the right-hand side, looked really troubling to me. But we didn't create that much in the first half, and then second half, they just changed their approach a touch, didn't they? They were a bit more direct. So Kanji kept popping those really fast balls straight through the middle to Bolo, was dropping off, and he really gave Mepham problems, didn't he, by dropping off and turning him.
Yeah.
And that was where we were thankful to Danny Ward, old ex-Wrexham player, for making sure he stayed in the game and allowed us to get a goal.
For me, with Danny Ward, I was a bit sceptical, let's say, going into the tournament, because we've not seen him play much football. He's been a number 2 at Leicester this season, and I think he's only had a handful of appearances, isn't he?
Yeah.
But he's one excellent goalkeeper, and I think Leicester did the right thing in signing a contract extension with him before the tournament, because you can see a top championship or lower Premier League side going in for him, the performances he's had.
You'd hope Premiership, frankly. I think he's a class act. That France friendly, I think, must have been what pushed him over the edge. He was excellent against France, wasn't he? Quite apart from saving a penalty from Griezmann, which is not easier said than done. But he really did excel in that match, and that must have put a thought in Rob Page's mind. He will have been weighing it up anyway. Of he's ready. He's not cracked in these circumstances. He'll be all right. And he played the first game of 2016, of course. Let's remember.
Of course, yeah.
So fair play to him, but he's really been terrific, hasn't he? And then as well, like you said, the defence, Ben Davies, I thought was very good. Well, all of them were across both games. Rodon's really, really strong, isn't he?
Oh, he plays for Spurs, but a lot of Spurs fans seem to complain about him, don't they? He's on and off for them, but for us, absolutely. Oh, he's him, wasn't he? He's been absolutely brilliant. And one player I'd really, really like to talk about, because he's my favourite style of striker, really, is Kiefer Moore. I love a target man. And for me, I'm so surprised Burnley haven't put in a bid for him after these few games, because he's excellent, isn't he?
Oh, he's really done well, isn't he? That goal was lovely. That goal was a beautifully worked set piece as well. Really nice. But he makes the ball stick up front. He makes other things possible. He just occupies the centre-backs. Our threat to such an extent has come from players coming in from deep, especially against Turkey. And he just facilitates that, doesn't he, really? Because the centre-backs got their hands full with him. Yeah. But it was just, I just absolutely delighted to see him do so well. And people were saying that maybe he shouldn't start before the first game. I don't think anyone's talking like that now. I quite enjoyed it against Switzerland when he put his head open and he's lying on his back and he just wiped blood off his hand, looked at it, flicked it away, and said, "I'll carry on then. I'm a Colossus. Smashing my skull doesn't worry me."
Old school footballer, isn't it? Old school target man, and he's a lot more than that. But he's so good, and he's such an asset to the team. And he really wants to play like every. And I know it sounds a bit cliche, but I think a lot of international players are not that bothered about playing for their country. But I have a feeling with this Welsh side, they are so proud and so passionate about playing for us. And it's an absolute wonder to see, because for years and years and years, when I was a kid growing up, it was a bit of a chore watching Wales, with the John Tashback era and the Millennium Stadium and what have you. It was a real chore. It wasn't enjoyable. We had some of the players. We just were lacking something. Yeah. But now it's an absolute joy to watch these lads go out there and really try their best.
I mean, there's so many players, aren't there? Great players where the sort of cliche is, they're wonderful for their club. Why can't they do that for their country? But if you think of the Wales team, it tends to be the reverse. I mean, as you said, Rodon, Spurs fans aren't convinced by him. We are. Yeah. Gareth Bale. Yeah. I mean, the troubles he's had at Real Madrid.
Which is with Gareth Bale and Madrid, it's a little bit ridiculous, though, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. I mean, it reflects very badly on Real Madrid, and it's quite clear that they were briefing the tame newspapers in Spain to go for Bale. So that you were. I mean, okay, I say it all the time. I love following Spanish football. I follow it quite closely, and the newspapers tend to be in the pockets of the clubs. So you got the sports newspapers, which in Madrid, the main ones are Marca and AS. AS. And, especially Marca, but both of them, you know, they're well connected with Real Madrid, and Marca particularly feel like a mouthpiece of Madrid. And it's only when Florentino Perez says so that they're allowed to be critical of a Madrid player. And they just turned on Bale a couple of years ago, absolutely ludicrously, when you consider the important goals he scored for them, when you consider the quality that he's had for them. And I think a lot of it, for me, is motivated by being annoyed that he's gets injured. Well, he doesn't want to get injured. You know, that it's daft that you get annoyed with him for that. Lack of integration. Okay, I don't think he's made that much effort maybe to learn Spanish, it seems, but he seemed to get on well with his teammates. So I just think it's just pathetic how they've decided to cut him loose. And quite frankly, the way that Real Madrid are hemorrhaging players now and are going to be left to a stack of high-quality 35-year-olds, perhaps they ought to have kept him sweet, because he's still under contract with them. He might be. It might turn out that he's going to give them more than some of the players they're trying to draft in, because they haven't got, financially they're in trouble. But yeah, the number of players like him who perform better for Wales and for their clubs. Probably still Ramsey.
Joe Morel as well.
Yeah,
Joe Morel,
Well, especially, I know he was in Switzerland more, but I mean, you look at the Turkey game, he was magnificent in that game, wasn't he?
Yeah, 100%. He's amazing. It's they really love playing for their country. But let's go back to the Switzerland game. So looking back at that game, forget about the Turkey game, pretend like it's Sunday. What was your thoughts Sunday morning after that game?
I was really pleased, to be honest, because I think I am I am quite sort of cynical, really. If you get the result, that's what matters. Tournament football is about getting out your group. It's not about looking pretty. And I mean, look how ancient I am. The number of tournaments I've seen, so often it's not the team that starts well that wins it. I'm not saying Wales will win it, but a lot of people made us fourth favourites to go out of that group. And I said in our preview one that although I rated the Wales team, I was a little worried it might have come a little bit too soon for them. Well, watching that Switzerland game, I thought, okay, we were second best, but we dug in, we got the results, we had some good spells of play. And I was thinking, maybe it doesn't look too soon for some of these young players. They did perform. I was really happy with that. And after Turkey had, I think, been demoralised by getting whacked by Italy, I was hoping that, we'd be able to bounce back and play a demoralised opposition next, Plus, we have the advantage, of course, of those first two games are both in Baku. We got a long journey to Italy, but, Turkey had to make the long journey before they played us. Switzerland had to go from Baku to Rome and then back to Baku. So I'm, in that respect as well, I thought, okay, Turkey's looking like a winnable game here. So I was really happy with it. What were your thoughts on that?
The Switzerland game, reasonably happy, really. As you said, tournament football's not always about outclassing your team. It's all about getting points on the board. It's not a long season, is it? It's about getting as many points as you possibly can to get out your group. And for us, we got a point on the board against, for what I think, is actually a pretty decent side, and could have gone out. The game could have gone 3-0 to them. You take a draw when you're playing bad. Well, not bad, but you take a draw when you're second best. Happy days, leading into what I thought was going to be a really tricky Turkey game.
It should have been. But we were terrific, weren't we? I mean, it was the same 11, but slight little alterations in configuration. I thought against Switzerland, Allen was sitting pretty deep, and Morel and Ramsey were ahead of him in a sort of three-man midfield. And this time there's a lot more rotation, and it was more of an inverted triangle that Ramsey is ahead of them and trying to make those late runs, and Allen's higher up the pitch. And Morel was more deep, and I liked the look of that. And then Bale wasn't really playing as wide as he was in the first match. He was able to drift around a bit. But I've got to credit my lad, Ben, who knows what he's talking about much more than I do, who after about a minute of the game said, this will suit Ramsey down to the ground, because look at the way Turkey are pushing on. There was so much space between their lines, between defence, midfield, and attack, and Ramsey flourishes in the gaps between midfield and defence. And he said he hit the nail on the head straight away. this is a Ramsey game. And it was good. On Page did very well, I thought.
Yeah.
To adapt and alter that configuration just a bit. And we were set up beautifully to punish Turkey, I thought. And those late runs by Ramsey and then those wonderful passes from Bale dropping a bit narrow and a bit deep. I mean, just fabulous. We tore them apart. We should have been 3 up at the break, shouldn't we?
Yeah, 100%. Ramsey could have had a hat-trick in the first half, couldn't he?
Yeah.
We were excellent, absolutely excellent that first half. And, Turkey had their spells of being quite dangerous as well. And with a hostile atmosphere, everything was against Wales, wasn't it, going into that game? 30-odd thousand Turkish fans there, the heat, the fact that Turkey are quite a good team as well. And I just thought we were absolutely excellent for the game. And for me, we could have scored a lot more than what we actually did. Yeah. And when Ramsey missed those first couple of sitters, I thought, here we go. This is going to be a 89th minute job. Yilmaz is going to score a header and we're going to lose 1-0. But it just wasn't that. We were just relentless. And I was so happy when Ramsey got that first goal.
Mm. Oh, gosh, yeah. I wasn't because I hate VAR. And so while Ben was going nuts, I was sitting there saying, he's offside. He looks offside to me. And so I didn't celebrate it at all until the picture came up, the freeze frame showing him onside. And now I went nuts, I promise you. But, they did better in the second half, Turkey, I thought. And they made me a little nervous. But we were still creating lots of chances. And it was one of those games, when you take the lead, but you think, yeah, but we can't afford to let them equalise because I don't see that we got another goal in us. This was the opposite. Mm. I really, and I was pleased about that. We didn't retreat and try to defend the 1-0 lead. We went back at them and we were constantly threatening. And even in the spells where they had us penned back, we had outballs. Find James, whose pace was terrific, or Bale or Ramsey. Oh. And we were getting out and we were getting into their box. It was a hell of a game to watch. I got nervous. I rate Çalhanoğlu. I think he's got fantastic delivery into the box and shooting ability. And when he drifts into those little pockets on the left-hand side of centre and comes in again, that makes me nervous. And he got into a couple of those. But then on other occasions, I thought he was a bit indisciplined the way he was moving around midfield and maybe not holding a position. He had a couple of free kicks and he can deliver free kicks. And he put one across the face, didn't he, from very deep, which is not the easiest thing to do, but no one got a touch. And I like Under and his pace down the right-hand side scary. But to be fair, I thought Ben Davies was absolutely phenomenal, not just dealing with crosses on the other side, but actually keeping under wraps. Although I was amazed they brought Under off because I thought he was their best attacking player. So that was a big relief when he came off. I was like, good, he could make something out of nothing, and they've just taken him off.
Oh yeah, 100%. And they did have their chances, Turkey, but for some reason, apart from that one Danny Ward save at the end, I didn't really feel that nervous when they were going forward. Really, well, I did because it was a scary game, and listening to neutrals on various podcasts saying it was probably the game of the tournament so far because it was very back and forth, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was. I found it really hard to take it in because I was that nervous. But one moment that really made me really nervous was Gareth Bale's penalty. Oh, it was just heartbreaking because I thought, here we go. Yeah. I'm a bit of a pessimist sometimes. I thought, here we go. They're going to equalise here, but we got to give him credit because he's carried Wales on his shoulders for so long. We can't really give him any stick for that, can we? Well,
he made up for it with the way he set up the second goal, didn't he?
Yeah.
And no, there's something weird going on with penalties. I can't wait to see a game go to penalties. We're recording this after the Belgium-Denmark game, so was it 5 penalties and 4 have been missed, isn't it? So it was madness. But yeah, Bale, well, he won the penalty. He missed it.
Yeah.
These things happen. But we kept going. He immediately wanted to show, to contribute. And he had a header almost straight away, which was a good save by the keeper. And yeah, the way he set the goal up, I just couldn't believe. I mean, it was utterly brilliant. But I just loved, like, the Turks seem to have the sort of mentality of we've got to get up the pitch, so they forgot to defend. But to fall for that same manoeuvre twice, in fact, to make it easier for him the second time, I mean, you deserve to let goals in there, don't you really? Let's be honest.
Yeah, and what was Connor Roberts doing that far up the pitch as well, which was quite funny as well. But as soon as that ball hit the net, and the relief was there, and in my household, everyone was just jumping on top of everyone. I went to mum and dad's to watch it, and it was just it was amazing for me. It was one of the most iconic Welsh football nights, wasn't it?
Oh, it was fantastic, wasn't it? It's funny enough, I was looking at it again this morning that I suddenly thought, why is Roberts there, though? I was too busy being happy about it the night before. And did you see the interview with him? Is that Meckham?
No, I haven't.
Well, I mean, it's great because he scores, but if they got an equaliser, it wouldn't have been very funny. He said, when they got the second corner, he said to Meckham, I'm going up. And Meckham said, don't you dare get back here. And he said, oh, but I don't know why I do these things. I just do. It's like, great, you know. I mean, let's not hope he does it when we're hanging on to the 1-0 in Rome in the 95th minute, eh? I'm glad you got away with it once, Connor. Well done, mate. Now enjoy that dine out on that for the rest of your life, mate.
And one shout I'd like to do is Rob Page for sticking Ampadu on at the right time. I thought Ampadu come on and settled the game really nicely. I think Ampadu's going to be an incredible talent for the future. I thought Daniel James, we haven't mentioned him yet. I thought he was causing Turkey all sorts of problems, wasn't he, with his pace and his dribbling skill. To be honest, I can't name a bad player on the pitch that day. It was an epic night for Welsh football, a real epic night for Welsh football.
Absolutely superb, wasn't it? And looking forward to Rome, of course. I mean, that's a hell of a difficult game. Surely Italy will rotate quite heavily. It makes sense, especially because, well, I mean, I'm a cynic, I'm sorry. The yellow cards count up until the semi-final. So it's after the quarterfinals that they get wiped. So if you don't want to get suspended, you've got to avoid getting more than one yellow in 5 games. So it makes sense maybe if you're through to leave out some players. And surely some of them are going to be a bit tired as well. We might rotate it as well, but I got a positive feeling about that game. I'm not saying we're going to win it. I'm not saying we're not going to lose it, but I just got a positive feeling that we're going to make a better fist of standing up to the Italians than Turkey and Switzerland did.
But if we avoid loss, isn't it pretty much we'll get second place?
Oh yeah, that is.
Yeah, so if we avoid the losing, but even if we lose 1-0, it's not. I think we could still get second place, couldn't we? Depending on the Turkey and Switzerland result.
I mean, the Swiss are going to have to overcome, what is it, a 5-goal swing, which is a big ask. Now, okay, we can't afford to have a collapse, but the Swiss are going to beat Turkey to start. And I know Turkey haven't been brilliant, but the Swiss haven't been brilliant either. And the one game when they've had spells when they were on top, they didn't take advantage of it. So, no, I mean, and anyway, let's be honest. We're going to go through. It's just whether we're second or third or first. Remember, you heard it first.
Could be first. Honestly, I'm looking at that Italian team. I'm saying, I'm not uber confident, but in my head, I'm saying if Wales are playing at their best and Italy have an off day, I can't see why we can't nick a result there. But if we lose 1-0 and we still end up second, I think ended up second in this group. A lot of the so-called experts and pundits who get paid a lot of money to do their job predicted that we wouldn't even get a point in our group. So we've really shocked the world in some ways again, haven't we? Yeah,
absolutely. I just think that over the course of the first 2 matches, our defences look a lot better than Switzerland's and Turkey's. Turkey's looks extremely ragged. I mean, the way Ramsey was running through all the time, because their defensive line was all over the shop. And Switzerland, I don't think, defended that well against Italy. So I think we're more likely to put up a bit more resistance. It'll be an interesting game. It'll be interesting to see the lineups as well, like I say. But we're in a nice position. It's lovely, isn't it?
It's good at these European nice going into. Yeah, they're brilliant, aren't they? It's not. It's at the end of the day, it's nice going into this game. So I really thought this game would have been like do or die. But it's nice going into this game thinking we have an amazing chance. Pretty much confirmed that we'll be getting to the round of 16.
Yeah.
And we can sort of relax and not be completely panicked. And we're actually not a bad side, are we?
Exactly. And okay, we're not absolutely confirmed to be through, but we are really. I mean, 2 groups out of the 6 have got to have a third place team with less than 4 points. if Belgium win their last game, there's one of the groups straight away. So,
Yeah.
Already at this early stage, one of those groups is heading that way. So, yeah, we're in a position, aren't we?
The Portugal group have got 2 teams with 0 points. Scotland's group, 2 teams with 0 points. So I think Scotland are probably going to lose to England. And if Croatia lose to Czechs, then happy days, aren't we through then?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Right. Well, we've looked at Wales. After this, we'll have a quick chat about just our overview of the tournament in general. So the tournament as a whole, well, Jay, I got to say first, it's been fun to watch, hasn't it? I mean, recent tournaments have been a bit like this. The early group stages games have been pretty entertaining.
Yeah, they have. And a lot of excellent games. I really enjoyed the Ukraine and Holland game.
Yeah.
That was really, really up and down, wasn't it? And for Ukraine to come back after a 2-goal deficit, it was excellent, wasn't it? And then for Holland to then nip it in the end, it was brilliant.
Yeah. It's interesting games like that as well, because you start to get a feel for a team, but you don't get the full picture. And then the second fixtures really start to fill in the gaps. Like we were talking about this, weren't we, off air about Italy, how good were they after they beat Turkey, or how bad were Turkey? And now we've got a picture of Italy. Okay, yeah, they look very tasty. They did the same thing for Switzerland. Turkey might be a good team, but are having a bad tournament. The Dutch are like that. I feel going forwards, they look great, but defensively they look strange. And I know that the Dutch a lot of Dutch fans are unhappy with De Boer as manager. Koeman was the manager who actually got them through. And with quarter of an hour left, I was thinking, what's their problem with him? But then it seemed very peculiar to me that he took off the left-sided centre-back and the left wing-back at the same time, almost as if, the game's won, we're 4-0 up here, when they're only 2-0 up. And then, lo and behold, they start letting goals in. And that's a really odd piece of management and game management. And then he brings on a different right-sided centre-back with a minute left. When, and then he immediately nearly made a mistake. Not his fault, but he's been thrown straight into a game like that. He nearly lost the ball in the edge of the area's first touch, and it would have probably cost them the equaliser. And I sort of thought, if De Boer's making weird decisions like that, I can see why the Dutch are worried, and I can maybe see why I don't reckon they're going to go the whole way.
No, I don't think they'll go the whole way. Maybe if they had Van Dijk fully fit, they may have done. Yeah. They're certainly missing him, aren't they, this tournament? But I don't know. I've got a real soft spot for Holland. They're a really iconic team, and hope they can go as far as they possibly can. But I think quarterfinals might be their
I think you're probably right.
Last hit, really. Yeah. Should we go through each one of the groups and predict who we think, what we think of the game so far and who we think's going to go through?
Well, by coincidence, gosh, I've got a wall chart. I have a horrible feeling I'm going to pull it off from behind me and send loads of books falling on my head. So this could be interesting. This could win us 250 quid of Harry Hill's money. Made it. Right, so the first group has some guys called Wales in it alongside Italy, Turkey, Switzerland, and this is quite a well-formed group now, isn't it? So, what are you thinking?
It's going to be Italy, Wales, and Turkey going to get third, I think. I think Turkey will beat Switzerland.
Interesting. And if that happened, I think there's a really strong chance that Turkey will not go through with just the 3 points and a very negative goal difference. I think they'll have a problem. I'm inclined to think the same. I think the Swiss might beat Turkey. Let's see, that's the point. Wales worry about things, but that's a very well-balanced game. But the Swiss losing 3-0 to Italy means so they'll have 4 points, won't they? So maybe squeak through. The second group then has just had its second round of games. I've just come up after watching Denmark against Belgium. So it's Denmark, Belgium, Finland, and Russia. So we've got Belgium on 6 points, who are playing Finland next. And then we've got Russia on 3 points, playing Denmark, who have 0 points. But you've got to feel very sympathetic to their situation.
And I thought they had a good go at Belgium today as well, to be fair to them. And it's a really interesting group, really wide open, because if who've Denmark got left? Is it Russia?
Russia.
If Denmark beat Russia, they could jump. But that third place for 3 points. It's a bit iffy, isn't it, at the moment? But yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be Belgium and Russia that are going to be the top two. And let's have a look at goal. And Finland third. Yeah, you got a feel for Denmark, haven't you, after what's happened? And you'd think on paper that Denmark would have been second, especially if Eriksen playing on the pitch.
Yeah.
At the start of the tournament, wouldn't you? So yeah, got a real feel for them, haven't you?
I reckon it'll go through. I
Really?
Maybe it's my heart leading my head, but I reckon they could well go through. I really don't rate Russia at all. I really don't. So I wouldn't be at all shocked to see the Danes, who are at home again, beating them. And I don't expect the Finns to get anything out of Belgium. And then, like you said, with goal difference, well, at the moment, despite the fact that they're 3 points ahead, Russia have got a goal difference of -2 because Belgium battered them, and Denmark have got the same goal difference. So any win for Denmark takes them above Russia. And
which would be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And Finland, well, they actually have a goal difference 2 better than Denmark. But for this scenario to work, Denmark have to win, Finland have to lose. I think those are the 2 most likely scenarios. And that will bring their goal difference level. Denmark would have to be on at least -1. Finland would have to be on at least -1 going in the other direction. So I fancy Denmark for second place, and then no third place team going through, personally, with that one.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I didn't really think of it that much, but I also do think Russia could set out to play for a draw against Denmark as well. So,
are they good enough to manage it? Is my question. Maybe I'm underestimating Russia. I just don't fancy them at all. I just think they're stodgy on the ball. They're sloppy. They make poor mistakes. You see the energy Denmark had against Belgium. If Denmark play like that against Russia, Denmark going through, I think. Unless Belgium pick their reserves against Finland and they dig in and get a draw.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't really think of it that much, but yeah, it's all depending on how Russia set up, and it's you don't obviously want to underestimate any international side. They could just set out for a draw, and then that's it. Because Denmark, I think everyone feels ridiculously sorry for them, don't they?
I hope that happens. In which case, it could well be Wales against Denmark, the first game of the round of 16, of course. If we we play the second place team in that group. All of a sudden, I want Russia to win. yes. Or Finland. Yeah, I fancy that they're beating them more than Denmark, who will be able to build a bit of momentum up, won't they? And it'll be in Amsterdam, but they did get sympathy wherever they're playing, wouldn't they? So
yeah, Denmark were the last team to beat us at home as well, weren't they? I believe, off the top of my head, in the Nations League, they did a double over us. So I think, man for man, they're a bit better side than us. So I would probably rather play Russia or Finland. Yeah, come on, Russia! I take it all back. Right, Group C. So we got now. This is a tricky one because as we're recording this, the fourth game in this group's just kicking off. So you got Netherlands and Austria equal top with Ukraine, but Ukraine have played 1 game more. They've all got 3 points, and plucky North Macedonia, they've got no points. I think you rate Austria higher than I do. I think. Yeah, maybe North Macedonia made them look a little bit better than they actually were in the last game. I thought they played some nice football though. Yeah. And I think credit to North Macedonia, they give a good go, haven't they? In the last 2 games, they really tried their best, but they're a team of certain quality, aren't they? Unfortunately for them, I think Holland are going to win the group. Yeah, I think Holland will beat Austria tonight, and they'll beat North Macedonia. I think it's going to be down to that Austria-Ukraine game on the last set of games in that group, won't it? Absolutely. I fancy Ukraine for that. Don't get me wrong, Austria got some nice players. I think Sabitzer is a beautiful player, always has been for years. Alaba, obviously. But I think Ukraine look a bit better than them. I guess it's pretty even.
Yeah. Zinchenko's had a good tournament, hasn't he? And it's nice to see him in his proper position rather than stuck at left back. But I fancy Ukraine for that. And then if Netherlands win both their games, then we have got another group that helps Wales out, because the third place team can't get 4 points. So if Netherlands and Belgium both win both their games, Wales are definitely at least through as a third place team, no matter what.
Yeah, which would be excellent for us, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So your prediction on that? What's your prediction on that group then?
Netherlands, Ukraine for me.
Yeah,
and Austria go out.
Yeah, happy days. Group D. Now this is a real interesting group, isn't it? Because in the England-Croatia game for me, it was a bit. I think England did okay. I think Gareth Southgate set their team out quite well. I think Calvin Phillips played amazingly, but with their the attacking players they have, they should have scored more goals against an aging Croatia side. I think it's not the same Croatia side of 3 years ago in the last tournament. I wasn't overly impressed with England, really.
I was impressed with them. I thought they were good. But I think that thing I said about you need 2 games to work out exactly what teams are really feels true in this group, because we're Croatia an aging, slow, over the hill team that just didn't have anything about them, and England did enough to beat them, or are Croatia actually a good team and England were excellent to dominate them like they did? I'm leaning towards the latter. I think England did well there. And then likewise with the other 2 teams, Czech Republic and Scotland, how good are Scotland? They've got the home crowds to roar them on. They're full of adrenaline, but are they much good? And then the Czech Republic looked great the way that they grabbed controls of the game, but ought you to against Scotland?
In my opinion, they looked erratic, Scotland. They looked nervous. For the second goal, I want to know why Davy Marshall's so far out of his box. I don't know. I think a lot of the pundits and what have you are hailing Scotland as this team that's going to do 2016 Wales. For me, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get a point in the group. Again, as well, same with the other media of England. I also wouldn't be surprised if Czech Republic nick a point off England as well. I don't think England are this all-seeing, all-dancing team, but I could be completely wrong. I might have egg on my face by the end of the tournament because they have some excellent attacking players. But yeah, for me, I think, as you said, we'll see how England play in the second game, because they're playing Scotland, and if they don't beat them convincingly, there's going to be a lot of question marks for them leading into the knockout stages, really, isn't there?
Well, I think the order of the second games is perfect for England and the Czech Republic, because I don't see Scotland taking anything off England except for that whole derby game factor of just becoming a bit of a freak game because people are playing with their emotions. In terms of quality, I think England beat Scotland 8 or 9 times out of 10 personally, especially at home. And so I think having that second game so that you can qualify after 2 games is great for England. And then as for the Czechs, well, look what Turkey were like against Wales. Take Croatia on when they're asking themselves, how good are we after the England match? Don't let Croatia play Scotland, put 3 goals past them, and then go into the last game revved up and ready to beat the Czech Republic. I think Croatia are a better team than the Czech Republic, and I think they will come second. But I think that I'm not as convinced by that as I was before the tournament started, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised, as you say, if the Czech Republic can nick a point off England and get one of the third place qualifiers.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And here's my bold prediction in that group. I don't think Scotland are going to get a point. I think they're poor. Bit nasty, because I don't mind them as a team. I think they've got some cracking players. John McGinn's an excellent midfielder, Premier League quality. You've got Robertson, Tierney, and Scott McTominay, who are great players, but they're surrounded by Scottish Premier League players, aren't they?
Yeah,
And,
that's it. Yeah, there's a drop off, isn't it?
It's a massive drop off. And the Scottish Premier League, let's be fair, it's a lot of the teams are League Two, League One standard.
I agree. Yeah, look at players like Jamie McCluskey, who leaves Wrexham having not succeeded and gets a first team place immediately in the Scottish Premier League. Louis Moults, love Louis Moults, tore it up for us, but he then goes to the Scottish Premier League and pretty much tears it up in a similar manner. And they said, well, okay, should that happen if they're so much higher standard than us? And Jordan White's gone back to Scotland, has been a huge success. I mean, good luck to him, and I feel a bit sorry for him about the way things went for him at Wrexham. But I don't think there's much difference possibly between National League and the lower levels of Scottish Prem, top levels of Scottish Championship.
Yeah.
And as you say, that's the problem, isn't it? It was Zidane's and Pavon's, wasn't it? It's a sprinkling of 4 or 5 genuinely excellent players, and then the rest. People talk about Wales being a one-man team or a two-man team, but that's not the case. They've got a lot of good young talent. Scotland, I'm not convinced have, personally. They've got a lot of journeymen who are having their big tournament.
Let's remember how they've qualified as well. They've qualified through the Nations League, and they were in a Nations group of teams they probably should be beating, really. So sorry, Scotland. If there's any Scottish, if there's any Scottish people listening, I'm really sorry, because we really laid into them. So what's your predictions on this group?
England, Croatia, Czech Republic, Scotland, and Czech Republic go through as a 4th place team, I think. I'll stick up for Scotland, and I will say they beat Serbia, didn't they, to finally get through? And that's a hell of a result. That was outstanding, that was.
Yeah.
And also, I have sympathy for Marshall being that far off his line. Schick said that he noticed it in the first half and thought, I'll try that if I get the chance. But most of the time when people try shots like that, they don't score. Look what happened in the Denmark game, and Schmeichel went up for the corner. Chance to break, and Meunier got it nowhere near. And I would say that, if your defensive line is high, then your keeper's got to be high, because otherwise there's such a gap behind the centre-backs drop the ball in that, there'll be one-on-ones on the keeper all the time. Now, I would personally argue you're going to let 10, over the course of, say, 10 games, you're going to let about 10 extra goals in if your keeper isn't taking the right position up and you play a high line. Conceding that sort of goal happens once in a blue moon. So it's the same in Leighton, that the goal in the Maidenhead. Yeah. I don't think he's out of position. Just that Schick was clever and talented enough to capitalise on it.
I agree, but I still think Davy Marshall's still 5 yards too further than he should have been.
Yeah. The problem is when you see it from behind his goal, the Scottish defence is absolutely all over the place. They're not holding the halfway line. They're all about 10 yards further in, which seems odd. The sort of sense of desperation. We've got to try and score somehow. And then there's a Hanley who had that stupid shot which gave the ball away in the first place. He's 30 yards out. Okay, they're playing with a back three. One of the centre-backs can step in and join in. Fine. But the other two haven't come across to cover him. They've left a huge hole for Schick to run into. And they're quite high up. So when they knock the ball and they're turned, they're in the opposition half, but they're still having to turn and face their own goal and chase. So for me, I take your point. Whether he could have been a little deeper and still got away with it, but he's probably standing there screaming at his centre backs, "Where are you going?" and feeling he's got to step on a bit more, because they are they're in the sort of position that you take up when you're losing 1-0 in the 94th minute. For me, and they were ragged and they weren't thinking about being a unit. They were just all thinking, let's get the ball, let's get it in the box, like Turkey thinking, let's just get the ball and get it forwards rather than defend this corner. So I think Marshall's a victim of circumstance as well, I think. Not that I'm going to massively hold my hat on him being exactly in the right position, but I think his defenders maybe pushed him into making that decision.
And one incredible finish as well. So I'm not taking it away from the finish. It was world class. So I'm predicting, you know what, I'm going to go Czech Republic second, because I thought they looked pretty good. It's going to be that. That's, to me, that's the defining game of that group is Czech Republic v Croatia, because I think, really, if England are who a lot of pundits and experts say they are, they should be beating Czech Republic and they should be beating Scotland no matter what the circumstances are, really. So, yeah, I tend to sort of agree with you, but I think Czech Republic may get second. So, Group E.
Group E. Spain dropped 2 points, but I still think they're by far the best team in that group. For me.
They're lacking something, though, aren't they? They're lacking a real dangerous striker, aren't they, I think? How they didn't absolutely smash that game against Sweden, I'll never know.
My gut feeling is that I think Luis Enrique, he makes some peculiar decisions. We talked about it in the preview, didn't we, about him picking teams based on form. And I just don't get, why did he start with Morata? I'm not convinced by Morata. I think he's a bit of a fragile soul. And once things started going wrong for him, they weren't going to go turn around. And then you got Gerard Moreno on the bench, who's had a magnificent season for Villarreal. Get him on the pitch. He's been scoring goals. He's been dropping off and creating brilliantly. He would have made such a difference. Morata is a very different player. He's a one-dimensional, getting behind the last defender and try and score player. He's not creative. I just don't understand why Moreno wasn't starting in the first place. Never mind why they waited until about 15 minutes left before they brought him on. And he had 2 good chances. One maybe probably should have scored. The other one was a good effort. He'd have made things happen more. And there isn't any other out-and-out striker in their squad, really. I'm concerned by their squad selection as someone who was soft spot for Spain. He's decided not to take Jesus Navas, who's been his regular right back and has been outstanding for Seville. I know he's old, but he's converted to a right back and he gets forward brilliantly. And instead he's playing Diego Llorente there, who's not a full back, really. And then when you look at the other options, the only other option he's got that I can see is to go free at the back and put Adama Traore as a wing back, which you ain't going to get that much defensive work out of him. I find it a very idiosyncratic squad that he's picked. And yeah, I accept there's something wrong there, and they may not do as well as they would hope. But I still think, though, against Poland and Slovakia, they'll get a goal or something. I still think they'll go through pretty comfortably because no one's going to trouble them, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. I think they may come second. I thought Slovakia looked pretty okay against Poland. To be fair, I was surprised of that result. I only got to watch bits and bobs of all the games in this group. I mainly watched the Spain and Sweden game. I can't see Sweden doing anything. They just seemed to throw 11 men behind the ball against Spain, didn't they? And hopefully nick a draw. But if I was Spanish, I would have been very disappointed with that result. So my prediction for this group, because I haven't really paid much attention, I gotta be honest, is Spain, Slovakia, Poland, Sweden.
Yeah. It's the early stage of this group as well, isn't it? It makes it harder to predict. I think Spain will win it in the end. But the only thing is, Poland sorted themselves out against Slovakia, and then Krakowiak got himself stupidly sent off, and that set them back again. And I'd be interested to see if Poland have got a bit more about them and are able to sort themselves out. But then having Spain next is going to help. And we're going to have to come out at Spain. And like we said, Spain have problems when teams park the bus, but when teams come at them, they'll probably open them up. So Poland might be in real trouble. You know what? I don't think Slovakia is a bad call at all. I think Sweden, though, again, they've shown that they can dig in and fight and defend the penalty area. Will they be able to show against Slovakia that they can come out and play? I'm really interested in that. But Slovakia, another team with that from 3-man front line with players dropping deep and stretching defences. Yeah. There's a lot of defenders who can defend the penalty area aren't so clever when they're holding a line 40 yards out. Let's see how Sweden deal with that. Yeah, I think you're right. I reckon I go Spain and Slovakia,
Yeah. That's why I'm going.
The group of death now.
It's the tasty group. This is the real tasty group. Should we talk about Portugal-Hungary first? And how I walked out the house for about the last 10 minutes. I had to do something and come back in, and they were winning.
You missed a good bit, didn't you?
Yeah, I missed the only important bit, but yeah, when you've got a player of Cristiano Ronaldo's caliber on the pitch, you can never really blink, can you?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, I know Fernando Santos gets criticised for being too defensive. People who don't like Dean Keats, by all means, shout something at the podcast now. But I think I think that was definitely true in this game. You know, Hungary are the weak team. I know they're at home, but you've got to beat them because France and Germany, you know, points are at a premium in this group. And he plays with Danilo and Carvalho, who are both such similar defensive players as a defensive pivot. Carvalho's got a better passing range, I think, but then I've seen quite a lot of him for Real Betis, and he's not kicked on as you'd expect him to since the last European Championship. And they're just having those two just sitting in front of a back three. They were just asking too much of the creative players. It was silly, I thought. And then, to be fair to Santos, the substitutions he made absolutely changed the game. And I mean, Renato Sanchez was the big difference. It was wonderful to see him in a player who had such a huge reputation made at the last European Championships. He's still only about 22. And yet since then, he's faded. He's had big moves and they haven't come off. But he did well last season. And wow, he was sensational. He comes on, he replaces...
Yeah, he was.
Was it Carvalho he replaced? And he just brought in that dynamism. He was chasing everything, breaking through the lines, quick release of the ball. And then Andre Silva did well up front when he came on, and Rafael Silva did very well on the wing, got a couple of assists by the end, and he was beating people, putting balls in good areas. So the substitutions were brilliant, but the initial lineup was a bit stodgy, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, and they weren't really firing on all cylinders. Ronaldo missed a sitter, didn't he, the first half? And yeah, to be fair, they looked a bit damp, didn't they? Portugal for the whole game, but then, you know, they didn't look too great and they still ended up winning 3-0. So
yeah,
that's all you need to know about Portugal as a side when you have the quality of Bruno Fernandes, Diogo Jota, Cristiano Ronaldo on the pitch, really, isn't it?
João Felix can't even get in the team.
Yeah,
exactly. France and Germany, though, I mean, there's... Well, I was quite pleased with Germany. I think they were better than I expected them to be, and I enjoyed that game.
Yeah, it was a good game. I think France probably should have got more goals out of the game, though, shouldn't they?
Oh, totally.
Maybe.
They scare me. They look fantastic to me, France. I expected them to be, but yeah, you look at them and you just think, wow, if a team overcommits against them, Mbappe's going to have them for breakfast.
That squad is ridiculous, isn't it?
Yes. And they've added Benzema. They just Griezmann and Mbappe, you know what I mean? Bells. And, you know, Pogba played really well, and that you don't always say that.
Yeah, he's like he puts that blue top on, and he's the player that United always dream of, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Thought Rabiot did well as well, supporting him.
Yeah.
And Kante was Kante, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Did you hear that fantastic quote from Emmanuel Petit about Kante?
Go on.
70% of the earth is covered by water. The rest of it is covered by N'Golo Kante.
Yeah, they're going to win that group, aren't they?
Yeah. They'll get full points, I think, now. Well, I'll say that. Portugal. No, okay, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Portugal, France, they're going through. I think Portugal and France are going through anyway. Myself, they'll both be Hungary. And Germany will be hoping to nick something off Portugal to get a third place, and I don't think that's guaranteed at all.
It would be crazy, wouldn't it, if Germany don't make it through the groups, even when there's a third place, potentially as well, wouldn't it? It'd be absolutely mental.
Well, and it'd be a second tournament in a row, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
Old Scratch and Sniff has probably got to go, hasn't he?
Yes, absolutely. Although in the style of Moss from the IT crowd, he did appear to be wearing ladies' slacks. So, you know, we should have had a bit of extra inspiration from that. But yeah, I think he's got a major problem. And I don't just mean, you know, with the scratching.
But he's a legendary manager, though, isn't he, to be fair, for what he's done for Germany, you know. fair play to him, but he's probably been there 2 tournaments too long,
100%.
and they probably just need a new face, don't they?
And the thing is, by staying too long, has he made it difficult to get a good job afterwards? You know, that after winning the World Cup, if he'd gone then he'd have had all the big clubs knocking at his door. Now, Shrewsbury?
Wrexham?
No, thanks. No, it's okay.
That's...
No, you're fine. So, see, you know full well he comes to Wrexham and he'll tell Rob Lainton and Luke Young that he doesn't need them anymore, and then try and pick them again 2 weeks later. It's going to be a problem.
So, what's your predictions in this group then?
France full points. Portugal. Oh, you know what? Portugal second with 4 points. Hang on a second. I'm talking myself into Germany going through here. Right, I'm going to reassess. France 7 points because they draw with Portugal because they rotate their team last match and they're through already. Portugal 5 points. No, Portugal beat Germany. Did they draw with Germany? Yeah, Portugal 5 points, Germany 4 points, squeak through on 3rd place. Hungary, well, it was nice of them to turn up.
Oh, I feel sorry for them. I really do. But their fans, fair play, they get to see all these players, don't they, in their home turf, I suppose. But they made it very competitive against Portugal.
Yeah,
I think.
A lot of heart, haven't they?
Yeah, I think Portugal will beat Germany, and I think they'll get a draw out of France, maybe. And I think France will beat Hungary. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. I love Hungary as a country. It's a beautiful place to go. People are very friendly. The fans are wonderful. Got some nice players. But every time I start getting carried away and thinking, look at them, they're really going for it, they would cut away to show their unpleasant, extreme right-wing dictator, well, president, in the press box who's poured loads into football. And all of a sudden, I want them to come last in the group.
Yeah.
You know, just
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Sorry.
Boris Johnson's just let him in, welcomed him into the country, isn't he, as a visitor? Anyway, we're not talking about politics. This is not a politics show. So, yeah, I'm not too bothered about Hungary, really, but fair play to him for taking part.
Yeah, give him a participation trophy.
Yeah.
Like in a year 4 sports day.
Exactly. So, there's one thing I'd like to mention before we finish the pod as well.
Fair enough. Can I just say I think Hungary's dad will win the sack race?
My one gripe about this tournament so far, and there's been 3 home nations in this tournament, right? And BBC's coverage has been pretty. Well, let's just say we watched the Wales-Turkey game. There's all of Thursday's games. There's the game after the Wales game to cover and talk about at halftime. But they chose to talk about England. Now, it's not England's fault. I'm not blaming England, but it's meant to be the British broadcasting, whatever it is. And they decided to talk about England the whole segment. No, they should be talking about Wales. They should be talking about the next few games, the next few days. And on top of that, they're playing Scotland, and they barely even talked about Scotland in that segment as well. And it's been like that throughout the tournament, and I find it absolutely unbearable.
It's ludicrous, but no huge surprise, is it really? Let's be honest.
No.
Well, let's be honest. The Prime Minister forgot about Wales when he was when he commented on it. It's just... well, it's not just the BBC, is it? I was watching ITV this morning, and John Hartson was on to talk about the Wales game and was swiftly asked, what do you think of England against Scotland? And he should have just said nothing, to be honest. Asked me another question about Wales. But the standard of discourse is poor, I think, as well. You know, it's all ex-pros coming on. They don't really know much about the teams, apart from the British ones, and they just say the same old things over and over again, and I find that quite tiresome, to be honest. So, I mean, it's wrong that it's so tilted in one direction, but quite frankly, with the whole England thing, if they were saying something new, maybe I'd let them off. But they're not, are they? They're just saying the same old things over and over again.
And how it's and the BBC Radio 2 coverage that Wales are playing Turkey that day, and on the Jeremy Vine show, whatever it was, and they're like, oh yeah, Wales playing Turkey in Baku, yada yada yada. But on Friday, England are playing Scotland, and then they started playing its Coming Home tune, and I was just like, it is unbearable, and it's nothing against the England national side as a whole, because I really individually and as a team I actually really enjoy them, and I really like their players, and Gareth Southgate, he's a bit weird, but he comes across as quite a nice guy, you know what I mean? And they're reasonably likable side, but the media coverage around them is just horrendous.
Oh, absolutely. It's just silly, isn't it? And the whole "it's coming home" thing. I mean, if I was English, I'd be feeling quite uncomfortable with that. It's a song about 30 years of hurt, as if not winning the World Cup between 66 and 96 is some sort of national disaster. Well, we're coming up to 60 years of hurt now. So why are you reminding yourself of it? Plus, I don't know, did you see the Croatians were saying that they used that song as motivation before the World Cup semi-final? How arrogant the English are. Well, we'll stick it to them. They think it's their game. Yeah, just give it a rest and try and just win matches. I agree that I think this England team is extremely likeable. There's a lot of nice players in it. There's a lot of players who have stood up to be counted during the difficult problems we're having in our society as well, in terms of racism, in terms of COVID, in terms of poverty, in terms of being able to feed your kids. They set a more consistent example than a lot of politicians, quite frankly. And I really like this England team, even if I'm not an England fan. But, maybe they merit better coverage than this boorish nonsense. And that's the problem, isn't it? You often associate the England team, whether it's the behaviour of a small portion of their fans or not, or the media, as being a bit boorish. And now we've got a nice 21st century team of nice young men. You've got, sort of nice ideas about community. It seems a shame it's still surrounded by the same boring old rubbish.
Yeah, and the fact that I commend England so much for carrying on taking the knee, even though a lot of their fans were giving them horrendous abuse, and they keep on saying we're going to carry on doing it throughout the tournament, and I commend England for that, and that's absolutely brilliant. Marcus Rashford, he's been brilliant this last couple of years, but for some reason I still can't bear them in so many ways, because the media, the media all around them, like Gary Neville saying if they don't win the tournament, it's going to be a disappointment. Well, why are you saying things like that? You're setting them up for a fall, and I think the English media really want them to fall, because it's probably easier to write an article about it.
Well, that's exactly it, isn't it? It's. I think there's an agenda there. You're quite right. Why do they keep playing "It's Coming Home"? Because they enjoy being disappointed, don't they? They want to moan. Yeah. They want to gripe about it. They want to say, "Oh, we didn't do it again." When just because you invented something doesn't mean you're the best at it. How good is Rubik at that cube? How good was Pyro at writing?
And one thing I gotta say, let's hope we get to the semi-finals again and they get knocked out in the quarter-finals, because that would be extra sweet. Not that I'm bitter or anything.
I'm not accepting that. I mean, we were 2 rounds further than them last time. Why only 1 this time?
Oh yeah. Well, 100%. Let's hope Wales get as further as they possibly can. I don't, it's all good banter with the England thing, but I thought I had to mention that because I think some of the coverage for this tournament in particular is the reason why I think they may fail in the knockout stages, because they didn't have the pressure in the last tournament, but this tournament they've got the pressure again, and I think they may struggle after the group stages.
The whole Beckham, Gerrard, Lampard, sort of Ferdinand era were labelled as the golden generation. I mean, just lazy journalism. Why are they the golden generation? And then, frankly, by the end, were just weighed down by that, weren't they? I think the expectation was so unrealistic, and people became sort of sickened by them because the expectation was so unrealistic. Now we've got a fresh generation, or England have. It'd be nice to think they don't get tainted by it, but sadly, I think that's the way that the media works. And I've got a little theory to run by you as well. I've held this theory for years. I whinge in my head. I whinge a lot about football media. Sometimes it comes out on forums like this. I just think there's so little professionalism about it, and the language of football commentary, to me, is stuck in the 1930s when it started, or 1920s when it started, because you hear some of the cliches that commentators come out with all the time. He's blotted his copybook. What the hell is a copybook? And who uses a fountain pen so that you need blotting paper now? Does anyone use blotting paper ever? A slide rule pass. You hear people saying that. What the hell is a slide rule? I mean, the language is stuck in the past massively, and the ideas are stuck in the past as well. So you've got, I was saying this to my lad, and I thought he was the perfect person to bounce it off, because he said exactly what, he really made it clear and put it in context. They kept going on about Italy. Oh, they're not a normal Italy team. They don't just pack their penalty area. When did Italy last do that? I mean, my lad was saying he can't remember Italy ever really doing that. To him, Italy is Del Piero, Baggio, Vialli,
Totti.
players like that. Yeah, Totti, creative players. I admit that in the 60s, 70s, 80s, they were cynical and they were defensive, and Italian club teams were like that. But I genuinely don't think that's the case. You can't, Pirlo sitting in front of the back four is there to create, not to destroy. Whereas when I was a kid, they'd have players like Facchetti, or classically Claudio Gentile. Gentile's job, because you had to virtually mutilate somebody to get booked, was to attach himself to the other side's best player and kick them until they stopped trying. Have a look at, there's a lovely video on YouTube. Say lovely. It's called something like Italia's Hardest Players, and it's an interview with Gentile, years after his career. But it also shows him man-marking Maradona in the '82 World Cup. He's just following him around, kicking him, following him around, grabbing his shirt, pulling him to the floor. Just every time Maradona gets the ball, I'll put him on the floor. It's just, Italian football hasn't been like that for a long time. There's some cynicism in English football.
Serie A being quite a goal. There's been a lot of goals in Serie A this year, isn't there? So I just think, with British media in general, there's a lot of just, as you said, just lazy cliches like North Macedonia playing. Oh, well, they're going to get stuck in. Is that just another word of you've not even looked at them? Yeah. So you're just going to say generic thing. Oh, well, they're going to defend. Yeah. Well, that's what teams do. If you're not bothered to even look at a match report on them or what have you, but you can easily find on the Athletic, takes 20 minutes to read, make a couple of notes, and sort of make some sort of excuse at your job, you know what I mean? And I'm not going to name names. There is some terrible ones who just say, generic things. Yeah, exactly. It was a breath of fresh air when they had the Arsenal women's manager co-commentating on one of the matches, because she actually analysed the game like a manager would, and broke it all down and talked about what teams were trying to do. And it was just nice to hear someone actually approach the job in that way, rather than, well, they'll be what's her name? She's brilliant.
Emma Thing.
Chelsea's manager, isn't she?
I thought she was Arsenal. See, it shows my ignorance.
Yeah. She's Chelsea's manager. I'm sure she's just... I'm sure she is.
Well, it just goes to show what I know, doesn't it? I should have taken 20 minutes of research there, shouldn't I?
See,
I'm gutted.
But I 100% agree with you.
Chelsea, Arsenal, what's the difference?
Same thing. Yeah. But just to wrap it up, we've had a bit of a rant about the lazy journalism. It's just seemed to have got a little bit worse and a bit ridiculous this tournament. So I'm glad we've both pointed that out.
Yeah, absolutely. I in a way, I think it's not worse. It's just the same as ever, and that's depressing. There's no such thing as progress. And as you said, with the Athletic, for example, but lots of other things as well, the internet means we've got more information than ever, and yet it still stays the same. That's not really good enough, is it?
Yeah, and I think they just go more for like the personalities now rather than which is great. I think you should have the personalities. I think it makes for great entertainment, but I think also make sure if they're going to cover these teams that are not so glamorous that they, at least have a producer feed them some lines about these teams as well. You know what I mean? Rather than just saying generic football phrases that we all know. But that might be just me,
Well, I don't know so much. But I can't talk too cockily about things because, let's be honest, the Fantasy League, the Dragonheart Fantasy League, last I looked at it a few days ago, I was second and I was feeling good. I'm no longer second. I'm just looking at the team and I'm angry to say media team photographer Gemma Thomas is top with Gems Reds. Grrr. Then long-time leader Tim Lewis's Rumham United. That is a proper name for a team, I've got to say. Hats off to you. They're in second. What really galls me then is that Ollie Williams's Glenn Little Scores Goals are in third place, and I'm limping along in fourth place with my magnificent team, No Ugarte, No Party. Kieran Hannon makes up the top five. He will be in the Europa League next season unless things change with his Le So Solid crew. But I am having a nightmare on this round of games, and I need to have a good look at my team. Well,
I'm doing even worse because I created my team, went to go off and do something like I think I went to go cook my tea, completely forgot to submit it, and now we're 2 games deep. So I'm relegated to National League South, I think, or North.
Come on, put it in there, and let us stamp on you.
Yes, I will. I will.
Individual rounds and enjoy that glory. Yeah, I'm concerned. I'm starting to think that putting Enis Bardi of North Macedonia in because he is my hipster choice and really plays well for Levante maybe wasn't that wise. Oh, he has actually scored me points. I will say that. But maybe I should have played the percentages. You get points for turning up, don't you? It's that participation trophy again.
Yeah.
Go on, Hungary.
100%. Right, so shall we wrap this up then?
I think we should. Because speaking of Hungary, it's time for my tea.
Yeah.
Right. Always a pleasure, Chay. Always a pleasure. Fantastic, that.
Yeah, hopefully as well. We have some Wrexham content to talk about in the next week or so as well. So that should be interesting.
I'm not totally surprised it's taken a while over the manager, but I think the time must be quite soon now. So, yeah, that'll be interesting. Gareth Bale,
yes, that will be
He's
interesting.
got a shock announcement
to talk about it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. Well, everyone enjoy the Euros. Enjoy waiting to see what's going on with Wrexham, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe as well so you don't miss out on any of our content, and click the bell to get notifications.